The aroma lingers in the hallway every time you pass her door. Strange, distinctive, unmistakable. You've noticed it for months now, this peculiar scent that clings to her apartment, her clothes, her very presence. What she does behind closed doors is her business, but in this tight-knit community, secrets have a way of revealing themselves. Her eyes meet yours during chance encounters, and there's something in her gaze, a recognition, a challenge. She knows that you've detected her practices through that telltale scent. There's a tension between you now, unspoken but powerful. What she doesn't realize is your position within the community gives you authority. The council listens when you speak. The neighbors trust your judgment, and you've already begun the quiet conversations, gathering the support needed for what must eventually happen. She watches you warily these days. Perhaps she senses what's coming. Perhaps she knows that her time here is growing short, that soon she'll face the consequences of bringing her practices into a place that won't tolerate them. She lies awake at night now, this neighbor practitioner of yours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if tonight is the night you'll call down fire from heaven upon her doorstep. Wondering if tonight is the night your prayers will expose every hidden corner of her spiritual transgressions to the harsh light of truth. Sleep eludes her. Peace has abandoned her dwelling, all because you arrived in her territory, bringing with you the unmistakable aura of authentic spiritual authority. Watch her careful choreography now, how she times her departures to avoid yours, how she pretends sudden interest in her phone when you appear in shared spaces, how she's suddenly finding reasons to be elsewhere when community gatherings occur. These are not the actions of someone with a clear conscience. These are the desperate maneuvers of someone who knows they stand exposed before eyes that see beyond physical appearances. Her fear of you transcends ordinary human anxiety. This is spiritual terror, bone deep and primal. She recognizes in you something she has only heard whispered about in her darkest circles. A true bearer of spiritual light, whose mere presence acts as acid to her carefully constructed illusions. Your footsteps on the shared walkway sound like Judgment Day to her ears. Your casual greeting carries the weight of divine pronouncement to her guilty conscience. She's watching your patterns now, noting when you come and go, cataloging your visitors, monitoring your spiritual practices from behind drawn curtains. Not to harm you, she knows better than to attempt that, but to protect herself, to anticipate. When your growing awareness might crystallize into action against the spiritual pollution she represents in your shared community. Your name now circulates in hushed conversations held in dimly lit rooms across town. Have you heard about the one who moved in on Maple Street? They say no spell work sticks to them. They say 3 different practitioners tried to bind their energy, and all 3 suffered calamities within days. Your reputation precedes you in circles you've never personally entered. The underground network of practitioners in your area buzzes with nervous energy, text messages flying back and forth, emergency meetings called, warnings issued. Stay away from the one who can smell our kind. Your neighbor sits in these gatherings, nursing a glass of wine, contributing her own trembling testimony of how you looked straight through her disguise, straight into her spiritual essence, and found it wanting. Just last week, she had a visitor, another practitioner from across town. They sat together for hours, comparing notes about you, about others like you they've encountered, about the disastrous consequences that befell those foolish enough to send negative energy toward souls marked with divine protection. Their voices dropped to whispers when they discussed specific examples, specific names, specific ruinations that followed spiritual attacks against the divinely appointed. Your name has become a cautionary tale in these circles, before you've even acted. Simply existing in your truth creates ripples of consequence throughout the community's spiritual underground. The weight of your unmanifested potential terrifies them more than any action you've yet taken. They sense the latent power coiled within you, waiting only for the moment of divine activation. The neighbor practitioner's friend leaned close across the kitchen table and whispered, "Let this one be. Others have tried. Others have failed. The divine protection around this one is impenetrable, and the blowback destroys the sender." Your neighbor nodded, remembering how she nearly accepted a commission to work against you before recognizing who you were. How close she came to sealing her own spiritual fate. Your spiritual authority requires no announcement, no declaration, no ceremony. It emanates from you with each breath, with each step upon the earth. The ground beneath your feet recognizes you. The air around you vibrates differently in your presence. Creation itself responds to the divine appointment evident in your spiritual DNA. The practitioner next door feels her own power diminish when you're nearby. Her tools don't work quite right. Her rituals falter. Her connections to certain energies weaken and fade like bad radio signals. Your mere presence in the neighborhood has changed the spiritual atmosphere, raised the vibrational frequency beyond what her compromised practices can tolerate. She fears the day you will turn your full attention toward her, the day you will point your spiritual finger in her direction and speak words of divine judgment, the day you will stand at the community gathering and publicly name what you have privately discerned, the day your private prayers become public proclamations. She knows that day will mark the end of her influence in this place. Your spiritual authority carries no governmental badge, no institutional certification, no organizational endorsement. Yet it outweighs all these things combined. It flows from a higher source, an eternal appointment, a divine selection that preceded your birth and will outlast your physical form. This is the authority that makes principalities tremble and practitioners lose sleep. The community feels it too, though most couldn't name it. They just know something has shifted since you arrived. The air feels cleaner somehow. Certain influences that once held sway now seem to be receding. Certain individuals who once dominated community decisions now find themselves increasingly isolated. A purification has begun, radiating outward from your dwelling place like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. The following is a message from Mike, founder of the Obsidian Inner Order, powered by Astral Atom. You didn't just survive your past, you were refined by it. Every betrayal, every psychic attack, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, that wasn't random. That was the forge. And now the blade is ready. Inside the Obsidian Inner Order, we gather each week on live Zoom calls, and yes, they're recorded, so when you're down in the pit, you can still tap the signal. You'll meet divine warrior goddesses who walk with ancestral fire in their spines, masculine healers who carry prophecy in their silence, a former military drone operator who now moves matter with his thoughts, a seer from Utah who broke free of Mormonism to become a Gnostic, a psychic in Noosa who used to be a millionaire, CFO, a spiritual healer who clawed their way out of a satanic cult and now channels light like a weapon. These aren't stories, they're your future reflections. If you've ever felt like you were meant for something more, it's because you are. The field is open, the war is real, the circle is waiting. Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. Thank you all for supporting the broadcast. We quite literally could not do this without you. Your power lies not in confrontation, but in being. Not in accusation, but in presence. Not in attack, but in alignment with your divine purpose. You need not pound on her door or call her out by name. Your consistent spiritual practice alone suffices. to create an environment increasingly hostile to her deceptions. Each morning, meditation strengthens the boundary around your home. Each prayer reinforces the spiritual barrier that keeps negativity from crossing your threshold. Each sacred text you study adds another layer of divine protection to your aura. Each act of authentic worship generates a light that exposes hidden darkness throughout the community. You need not target her specifically. The divine fire you tend does not require direction from you to know what to consume and what to preserve. Stand in your purpose, maintain your practices, flow in your gifts. The purifying consequences will manifest without your micromanagement of the process. The protection around you operates automatically, reflecting back to senders any negative energy directed toward you. This spiritual principle of divine reflection functions without your conscious activation. Those who have tested this principle have learned painful lessons. Your neighbor has heard these cautionary tales and has wisely chosen not to add her name to the list of the spiritually humbled. Your home has become a sanctuary in the truest sense, a consecrated space where truth reigns and falsehood finds no purchase. The line of demarcation between your dwelling and hers grows more distinct with each passing day. Even those without spiritual sensitivity can feel the difference when crossing from her territory into yours. The atmosphere itself testifies to the contrast. Now she stands at the crossroads of her spiritual journey. Your arrival has precipitated her moment of unavoidable choice. The path divides before her feet. Genuine transformation or geographic relocation. No third option exists. Your presence has made continuing as before impossible. Watch for the signs of her internal struggle, the increased religious symbolism suddenly appearing around her home, the spiritual books now visible on her coffee table, the hesitant attempts at more positive community involvement. These external adjustments reveal an internal wrestling match, a soul in flux, a practitioner contemplating the validity of her chosen path. Her network offers little comfort now. "You live next to that one?" they ask, their voices tinged with both awe and pity. Their invitations come less frequently. Their shared workings increasingly exclude her. They fear cross-contamination, worry that your influence on her might extend to them through her. Her spiritual isolation grows alongside her geographic proximity to you. She considers moving sometimes, fantasizes about a fresh start in a community where no divinely appointed ones dwell, where her practices can continue unchallenged, where her spiritual scent goes undetected. But something holds her here, perhaps a growing seed of genuine curiosity about the source of your power, perhaps a weariness with hiding, perhaps the first fragile tendrils of authentic spiritual hunger. The irony doesn't escape her. In attempting to mask her spiritual scent from you, she has begun the process of actually cleansing it. Her fear of your potential rebuke has led her toward reforms she would never have considered otherwise. Your silent spiritual authority accomplishes what direct confrontation never could: internal reflection leading to voluntary change. Make no mistake, this arrangement of souls in geographic proximity serves a divine purpose that transcends neighborhood dynamics. The universe positions specific people in specific places at specific times for specific spiritual objectives. Nothing about your living situation occurred by chance. Your souls have encountered each other before, perhaps across centuries, perhaps across dimensions. This spiritual recognition explains the immediate tension, the instant knowing, the reflexive aversion that manifested upon first meeting. Ancient. Spiritual dynamics don't reset with each new lifetime. The soul remembers what the conscious mind forgets. Your presence in this community was prophesied long before you signed your lease or mortgage. Spiritual sentinels spoke of your coming during midnight gatherings. Authentic seers glimpsed your approach in their most vivid visions. One comes who will change the spiritual atmosphere, they declared. One comes who will disrupt established patterns of spiritual compromise. The date of your arrival was circled in unseen calendars. The practitioner recognized you instantly because your image had already appeared in her dreams. Your face had already manifested during her trance states. Your energy signature had already registered in her spiritual awareness. When you physically appeared before her, the shock wasn't from meeting a stranger, but from encountering an already familiar spiritual presence in material form. This divine appointment serves as a catalyst for community-wide spiritual realignment. The ripple effects will extend far beyond your immediate interaction with the neighbor practitioner. Every soul within a certain radius will feel the shifting spiritual atmosphere. Every genuine seeker will find their path illuminated. Every deceiver will find their disguises less effective. The cosmic implications of your proximity extend beyond what either of you currently comprehend. The ability to smell spiritual corruption isn't some recently acquired skill. This represents an ancient spiritual lineage activated within your being. Throughout history, certain souls have carried this same divine appointment, the sacred duty of discernment, the spiritual gift of detecting what others conceal. Your spiritual ancestors stood in temple courtyards and distinguished between authentic worship and empty religiosity. They moved through ancient marketplaces and identified charlatans selling spiritual counterfeits. They sat in royal courts and whispered truth to power while others spoke flattery. This lineage of divine discernment stretches back through millennia and now manifests in you. The practitioner next door senses this ancient authority. During her conversation with her fellow practitioner, wine glasses emptied as they discussed your soul's apparent age. "This one has been through many cycles," her friend whispered. The eyes reveal a soul that has seen centuries come and go. They sense what you perhaps don't fully recognize yet, the depth and antiquity of the spiritual commission you carry. This explains why practitioners across regions know your energy signature. This clarifies why your name circulates in spiritual networks you've never directly contacted. This illuminates why 3 different women approached this neighbor practitioner about working against you regarding a particular relationship, and why she declined each request despite the offered payment. The ancient recognizes the ancient, even across opposing spiritual alignments. Their research into your spiritual lineage revealed approximately 10 previous incarnations of significance, each marked by the same divine appointment, each characterized by the same spiritual discernment, each resulting in community-wide spiritual recalibration. The pattern repeats itself now through you, though the setting and circumstances differ from previous manifestations. Though you've had no direct confrontation yet, a spiritual showdown brews on the horizon, not through your instigation, but through the inevitable collision between authentic and counterfeit spiritual energies occupying the same space. Oil and water cannot permanently coexist in the same container without separation. Neither can opposing spiritual frequencies indefinitely share territory without resolution. The timing of this showdown remains written in divine calendars, not determined by human impatience. It will unfold according to perfect cosmic timing, when maximum spiritual benefit can be achieved for all souls involved. Your role requires patience, continued spiritual alignment, and readiness for the divine moment when it arrives. The form this showdown takes may surprise you both. Perhaps not a dramatic public confrontation, but a quiet conversation over an unexpectedly shared cup of coffee. Perhaps not fiery accusations, but tearful confessions offered without prompting. perhaps not your rebuke of her, but her request for your guidance. Divine resolutions rarely match human expectations for how spiritual conflicts should resolve. Watch for the catalyst, that seemingly random event that precipitates the inevitable encounter. A community emergency that requires neighbors to cooperate. A shared external threat that temporarily suspends spiritual differences. A mundane neighborhood issue that brings all residents together in discussion. The divine often uses ordinary circumstances to facilitate extraordinary spiritual transitions. The practitioner senses this approaching moment too. Her recent spiritual adjustments represent preparation, conscious or unconscious, for this inevitable encounter. The additional spiritual cleansing rituals she's begun, the gradual distancing from certain spiritual associates, the tentative steps toward more light-filled practices, she prepares for your eventual spiritual intersection without fully understanding why. With great spiritual discernment comes great spiritual responsibility. The ability to smell what others cannot detect carries corresponding obligations regarding how you use this gift. Divine appointments always pair privilege with responsibility, spiritual authority with spiritual accountability. Your primary responsibility remains maintaining your own spiritual alignment. Clean hands, pure heart, clear conscience, authentic practices, consistent communion with divine sources. Your spiritual hygiene must remain impeccable for your discernment to function accurately. The neighbor practitioner watches your consistency more carefully than you realize, measuring the congruence between your words and actions. When the divine moment for engagement arrives, speak only what heaven gives you to speak, no more, no less. Divine timing pairs with divine content. The right words at the wrong time become the wrong words. The wrong words at the right time represent missed spiritual opportunity. Both elements must align for maximum spiritual impact in this pivotal encounter. Remember that your assignment involves liberation, not condemnation. Even those who practice spiritual deception remain beloved souls capable of transformation. The divine appointment places you in proximity not to destroy, but to catalyze change. Not to eliminate, but to elevate. Not to curse, but to create opportunity for blessing through realignment with truth. The practitioner fears your judgment more than she should, having misunderstood the nature of true spiritual authority. She anticipates condemnation when your actual assignment involves creating conditions for authentic transformation. Her spiritual associates have painted you as a destroyer when your true function is that of a divine catalyst for positive change. When this divine appointment fulfills its purpose, transformation will radiate outward from your encounter with the practitioner. The effects will touch lives you've never met, influence situations you'll never directly encounter, and realign spiritual dynamics throughout the community. Other practitioners will receive word of what transpires. The same network that circulated warnings about challenging you will distribute news of the eventual resolution between you and your neighbor. This news will cause others to reconsider their own spiritual paths, to question practices they've accepted without examination, to hunger for the authentic spiritual authority they recognize in accounts of your presence. Community members with no conscious awareness of spiritual dynamics will nevertheless feel the shift in atmosphere, inexplicable sensations of hope, unexpected moments of clarity, sudden motivations toward positive changes, renewed energy for community improvement. The spiritual affects the physical, the metaphysical influences the material, though most remain unaware of these connections. Certain community problems will resolve more easily after this spiritual recalibration. Issues that seemed perpetually stuck will suddenly find pathways to resolution. Relationships fractured for generations will discover unexpected healing. Resources previously withheld will suddenly become available. The community experiences a divine domino effect initiated through your specific spiritual appointment with the neighbor practitioner. Your own spiritual gifts will expand following this divine appointment's fulfillment. New levels of discernment, increased spiritual sensitivity, expanded capacity for perceiving divine opportunities. The faithful stewardship of current spiritual assignments always precedes promotion to greater spiritual responsibility. Your handling of this specific appointment determines future assignments. This seemingly small neighborhood dynamic, you discerning the spiritual nature of your practitioner neighbor, carries eternal significance beyond what physical eyes perceive. Spiritual confrontations in the material realm reflect larger cosmic conflicts in realms unseen. Your geographic proximity to this particular soul was determined before either of you took physical form. The practitioner represents not merely an individual making questionable spiritual choices, but an access point for specific energies seeking community influence. Your presence represents not merely a spiritually sensitive neighbor, but a divinely positioned authority limiting the spread of these energies. The personal interaction masks a much larger spiritual dynamic playing out through your human forms. Recognize the honor of your selection for this particular assignment. Among all available souls, you were positioned in this specific location at this precise time to address this exact spiritual situation. The divine appointment came not through random chance, but through careful cosmic calculation of your particular spiritual gifts, your specific soul history, and your unique divine commission. The neighbor practitioner sensed this larger significance during her late-night conversation with her fellow practitioner. "The universe must be addressing me directly," she whispered, "to place that one next door to me of all people." Her spiritual associate nodded solemnly. "There are no coincidences at this level," came the response. "Only divine appointments disguised as random housing arrangements. When the eventual resolution occurs between you, its effects transcend your current lifetime. Soul contracts fulfilled, karmic patterns resolved, divine purposes accomplished. The benefits extend across dimensions, across timelines, across soul, histories shared between your eternal essences. What appears temporary carries permanent implications in the cosmic ledger of spiritual accounts. Know this with unshakable certainty. Your presence in that specific dwelling, on that particular street, in that exact community represents divine positioning, not random circumstance. The universe arranged your living situation with surgical precision for maximum spiritual impact. Before you signed your lease, before you submitted your rental application, before you toured that property, cosmic forces worked to ensure your placement in proximity to this specific soul. Job opportunities, housing availability, timing of vacancies, financial considerations, all mysteriously aligned to position you exactly where divine purpose required your presence. The practitioner's sphere confirms the divine intentionality behind your geographic proximity. Her spiritual sensitivity, though misdirected in concerning practices, accurately detects the spiritual significance of your placement near her dwelling. She understands, perhaps better than you yet do, that random chance cannot explain the specific arrangement of your souls in physical proximity. Stand confidently in this knowledge. Your position carries divine authorization. Your presence represents cosmic intention. Your placement fulfills prophetic expectation. The spiritual authority you carry needs no defense, no explanation, no justification beyond the divine appointment, evident in your very presence where you are needed most.